Well, the name of the book is simply The Life of Henry Martyn, and it was written by John Hall in 1832. Now, the book is about a young man who had his life pretty much set before him. He was very intelligent. He had graduated first in his class at Cambridge and was prepared to go to law school because, as he said, he wasn't really willing to live in poverty for the sake of Christ. And so the story is the change that God made in his life, not only his life, but his career. And so I think it's a very important subject for young people today, but it's also important for people my age because we can still, even at any age, do God's will. Well, he had planned on becoming, his sister had talked with him. And even though initially he was totally against anything related to any spirituality in his life, he realized that God was calling him to become a missionary. And he planned on becoming a missionary and taking care of his expenses on his own. But he had lost his inheritance from his father. That money had dried up, and he was forced to go to work, but he went to work for the East India Company as a chaplain. So he thought he would be going into missionary service, preaching. But God had a different plan for him. Well, I think that there were two things that were very important. First of all, Henry Martyn went from being someone who the world would have looked at as being very successful to being a fool for Christ, because he left everything to go to the mission field. But yet, even once he was on the mission field, God did not have planned for him what he really thought he was going to be doing. The fact that he wasn't preaching to masses of people meant that he had more time to concentrate on doing what God had for him to do, which was not only translating into his Hindustani, but later into Persian as well as Arabic, and actually reaching more people in the 6 years he was in India translating into Hindustani than he would have reached if he'd have spent an entire full life preaching to the people there. Also, the book is not just a biography. It is also a call to faith and to service, especially, I believe, to young people who are looking for what Christ would want them to be doing. And the fact that as Henry Martyn got older, even though he only lived to age 31, he was able to accomplish what God had set out for him. And he was very pleased with the fact that he had spent so many years so close to Christ and to God, because they were the only ones that were there for him. Even though he was surrounded by thousands of people, he was the only believer. And he was the only one who was in communication on a daily basis with God.